Welcome, everyone, to American Leads, the YouTube channel. My name, it's Alex Simon. Was going to do a long form podcast with Brendan and Michael and Jeer. However, they have, for various reasons, we could not get the show together tonight, and it's yours truly. So let me go through the comments so far, and then I'll probably have to take a little bit of a break. But yeah, this is what happens when you are a full-time daddy and a full-time employee. Disabled team, good to see you. Says, I hope you're well. Good to see you, disabled team. How about the news today? My gosh, it's scorching out on the East Coast too. Hold on one second, everybody. I'll just jump off and then I got to jump back in. Back. Yeah, never a dull moment in the life of the Leeds United fan. And it's like, this team has completely disrailed my morning here by this news that Andre Radz has leveraged the stadium, Elland Road, the ground, to buy another club, or wanted to. I guess it never fully went through, but the fact that apparently, again, I've gone through this so many different times, this club has more leaks than the Titanic. How is this information continually being leaked? And now we have probably the 49ers group or Angus or somewhere in the club to leak this information. There's clearly confusion in the craft, as they say. There's confusion in the craft. There's a confusion amongst the ranks, and Radz is going to have a mutiny either by the fans or by internally in the club. So it's just crazy, the news that's breaking today. The second S is missing from subscribe. Thank you. Please subscribe. I'm on the journey to 1,000. I actually got like 30 or so subs recently. So please do subscribe to me. Massive thanks to all of you that have subscribed. Let's go through the comments. I'm a Leeds fan for 50 years. I'm always blown away by the fans. I've been a Leeds fan for 8 years. So the fact when I see somebody for 50, I'm blown away. I'm a Leeds fan for 50 years. This guy Radz has gone to the same level as Bates and Massimino. Yeah, Massimino was a disaster. I was here for the tail end of him. He's not a millionaire. He tried to put Leeds as collateral for $26 million for Sampdoria. We want him out ASAP. Yeah, I have. It's time. If you go into my YouTube account, you can see back in August I said Radz out, and it was because of his financial instability. The fact that he had to sell Dan James to try to bring in another player, it just was not. That's not how business is done. The other thing is that the social media stuff is the fact that the 49ers are silent is a good thing. I know people want a statement from the club. The 49ers can't go rogue and issue a statement on behalf of Leeds United. So I just want everybody to be patient with them and not judge them before they even get here. Hopefully they will get here too. Reports are saying, Glenn says, reports are saying the 49ers enterprises were blindsided. If so, what does that mean? And what does that say about the 49ers then? I mean, you can't trust Radz Out. I don't think it means anything. I mean, if somebody doesn't tell you or communicate with you, that means Radz Out is going rogue. And the fact that he's not communicating with his investors Kind of shows you what kind of a business person he is. I don't know where they're going to sit. I really hope that us on social media saying Radz Out, us on social media saying that, we're not buying tickets. We're going to protest. Like, this is going to put pressure on Rad Rosani. I know people think that you can't do anything. You feel helpless in this moment, but changing your avatar on Twitter, putting a hashtag Radz Out, venting on social media, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I know people, that does add up. I mean, people, you look at the Super League and the amount of social media push that was put against that did do something. Don't think that didn't do anything. And the same thing with, a lot of different ownership groups that we see, the protests at Scum, obviously a rival club, they don't do nothing. I know that people are frustrated with ownership groups. And I think, even Arsenal, when 3-4 years ago, when Arteta first came in and stuff like that, they hear about this. You're going to hit them in their wallet, and that's where they're going to suffer. So I just am fully support of anybody that's wants to say Radz Out. The 49ers are supposed to make this deal by tomorrow to buy Leeds 100% takeover, but this will happen now that Radz tried to do this deal. The 49ers want him out now. Yeah, I agree, Mark. I hope that this takeover happens quickly. I did another video about the fact that the levels of the 49ers. The 49ers football club in San Francisco is worth $5.2 billion. That's on par, according to Forbes, that's on par with Real Madrid. I know that's maybe... I know that's hard to believe, but let's say those numbers don't necessarily equal. I'm just saying the 49ers club is worth a lot of money, and look at how they operate. Look at their social media feeds. Look at how many likes and follows and their content that they get and the stuff that they do in the city of San Francisco for LGBTQ rights and just community building in San Francisco. Look at what the York family does there. Look at how class of an organization that's run. And it's a massive, massive, massive brand here in some of the biggest players to play American football have played for the 49ers. I'll be right back. Hold on. There's 27 of you in the building. Please like the stream as we are live. And then that kicks on the algorithm and helps grow the channel. Michael was just here. Maybe I didn't see him. Michael, no. Come back. Oh, there he is. Michael.
Yeah, I didn't see that you had sent the link a long time ago, man.
I'm sorry.
And anyway. I was like typing in the sorry, we have obviously an instant chat with the guys that do this pod, and I was like, where's the link, man? Where's the link? And I was just sitting here watching you, waiting for the link, and then I was like, maybe I should scroll back, and I guess you sent it way earlier in the day, and
I was commuting today too, so I couldn't. And then my father was calling me right at 5. He wanted to get, and it's just he's bending my ear, and it's like, Dad, I gotta go. Well, so anyways, I'm glad you're able to join, and I know you got to leave in 30, but we'll hit this pretty quickly. I'm gonna go through. I was going through the comments, but I'm gonna pause that to get, give you the stage, Michael. You've been a fan for decades now. What, 20, 30 years?
25, yeah.
Really just disappointing news. Completely derailed my morning, right? I'm just trying to get a normal morning and maybe no news breaks. And obviously first chance I get to look at Twitter, I'm just flabbergasted that this person would mortgage assets in the club to buy another club. It's something that you were probably already worried about that revenue from Leeds would maybe go to buy players or get things done at Sampdoria. So just what are your feelings this morning, and where are you at with the club?
Well, it's funny. My late entrance and the screw up and getting in here on time today is sort of like a little microcosm of everything that's happening at the club right now. Isn't it just a bunch of nonsense? Yeah. Look, it's funny. I belong. I'm in a group, a Discord group, with some other Leeds fans, and one of them actually, we were just chatting yesterday about this whole situation, but not the obviously the situation with the collateral, because that hadn't broken yet. But he actually was speculated, not by me, by one of the other individuals in the group. Just wait until we hear that Radz has put Elland Road up as collateral to fund his deal to buy Sampdoria, because we were talking about how is he funding this without selling Leeds. Someone just jokingly said it, and it turns out to be true. Outrageous, man, outrageous. So look, I think that's sort of a good point to sort of approach it. When someone makes an offhanded joke about something just completely outrageous that turns out to be true, I mean, that just tells you how outrageous it actually is. Radz Out, I find one of the things that I found really funny about what Adam Crafton was tweeting out today about his interactions was how Radz Out basically tried to blame him and the Athletic and the media for turning Leeds fans against him. And it just reminded me of that sort of that Obi-Wan Kenobi, quote from the end of the third prequel film, where he's like, no, you've done that yourself. He's totally done that himself. And he's been doing it for a really long time now. And the fact that he somehow thinks it's appropriate to suggest that somebody else is doing it, either he's deluded or he's just totally full of it. I mean, quite honestly, it's been screw up after screw up. We've said this for a while. I don't think that he came into this, with bad intentions. I still think he gets some credit, obviously, for us going up in the first place. There are a lot of things about Leeds United that are better now than they were before he came. So I don't want to go 2-footed in him on absolutely everything and just, baby out with the bathwater type stuff. There are things that he did that are good, and I think we all have to recognize that. But his time is way beyond over at this stage. And it's just been screw up after screw up for a number of years now. Really, and even to be quite honest, even dating back to when we first came up, that first season was remarkable for many reasons. One, there were no fans in the stands, so it's really sad that a lot of people didn't get to see us perform that well in person. And it's certainly something I would have liked to go over again to Elland Road to see us in that season. We had hoped to do so, but the pandemic obviously put paid to that idea. But, even back then, he was making mistakes, and it was very clear that mistakes were being made with the way the squad was being built. I know that he gave a lot of power, obviously, to Victor Orta to do this. And maybe that was one of the errors as well. At that point in time, it was hard to say. Because obviously we had been successful. We had been able to get up. We had Marcelo Bielsa. Things were going well. I wouldn't necessarily blame him. Some of that, going back to the first year, is going to be, the benefit of hindsight. But once we hit the summer after that first year, it's not the benefit of hindsight. There was a growing number of voices that were coming out and saying, a little bit concerned that we're not building the squad in this particular way. A little bit concerned that we're not making progress here. A little bit concerned that you seem to be making all sorts of bragging type statements about all the things we're going to do and all the places we're going to go as a club, when really we just need to be consolidating what we have. That's not hindsight at all. I was saying it. Lots of other people were saying it. Certainly wasn't unique in that regard. Lots of people were saying it. Not everybody. I think most people were still very much head over heels, just joyful about how well things had been going to that point. But it was known that there were some problems. And sure enough, they reared their head. We don't need to go through the entire thing again. We know what happened with Bielsa. We know what happened with transfer windows. We know what happened with even last transfer window, where we bought lots of players. Most of them just simply weren't good enough. How much of that lands at Radz Out's feet? Well, again, he's employed Victor Orta to do this stuff. And it was pretty clear even at the end of last season that it wasn't working out. We decided to keep Jesse Marsh. We decided to, keep going, double down on that particular plan. And again, we had opportunities throughout. It wasn't working. Boom, we get to where we are now. and you can look back and say this has been a car crash. And there were many points in time where, again, a growing chorus of people were saying this isn't working. We need change now. Didn't come. Just kept on doing, everything that he was doing. Did you lose me?
No, I got you. I think your screen went.
It did.
Screen went, but
I don't know why it did. Normally it doesn't when I'm talking. But anyway, yeah, it just kept it. There were so many chances for him to make changes, and for me, the buck stops at the leader. It always does. It has to. The leader is the person who makes the ultimate decisions. He's made the wrong decisions. Now we get to this point. Leeds United have been relegated, right? We've been relegated. He's nowhere to be seen. He's all happy to come out and talk about how things are amazing and to get out in front of all the great things that are happening. As soon as we start taking on water, instead of going down with the ship, he abandons ship. And he goes and he's out buying another team when he should be dealing with this issue. Look, I think his actions in the last few weeks have been cowardly. I think they've proven very much that he's an egotist. I think I probably already knew that already. That he's much more concerned about how things look than how they actually are, or at least that's certainly the persona that he's projecting. Maybe he can't wait to get out of Leeds, and that's why he's trying to buy somewhere else. I hope that's actually the case because I can't wait to get rid of him.
He clearly just, to me, it's like he doesn't care about the club. He doesn't care. He cares about making money, and that can't be a business, right? Like if you start a business and the goal of the business is to make money, let's say it's a restaurant, that won't work. The restaurant has to be embedded into the community. The food's got to be good. You know what I mean? Like these little things all have to add up. And if all those things kind of add up, you'll make money and you'll win games. And he's not doing that. He's what's penny wise, pound foolish. Things are like, he's robbing Peter to pay Paul with the other clubs and trying to buy stuff. And my big point when I said Radz out earlier in the summer was he clearly didn't have the wealth to compete at the Premier League. Right. That's why I said this guy's gonna go eventually. He's got to go. And at the time I was like kind of a nice guy, made some mistakes, but he just doesn't have the means to really kick this club on. And so that was really not my first warning sign, at least clear warning sign in the summer. You saw warning signs over the first kind of transfer window. It feels like, Michael, what was the window? Firpo and Dan James.
Yep.
That's not good enough. That was not good. That was serious red flags.
It was. It didn't deal with core issues that we had to deal with, like central midfield.
Yeah. And I remember you saying after Leicester City this season, you were like on a rant, and I still got to clip it up because I think it was a really good rant. And you were basically like, this board's been dining out on the fact that they got Marcelo Bielsa, and that's it.
That's true.
And it was like, yeah, big facts. Like you take that away, well, what do they got? So, and then you just factor in this entire second half of this season and Sampdoria, and then now possibly mortgaging the stadium that had just been acquired, right? I mean, I was a fan right when that was right before that. Like I remember like Massimino didn't own the stadium. It was owned. It was did the city own it? Somebody owned it, right?
No, it's a private equity.
A private firm.
Yeah.
And the guy acquired the asset. Now he's like, ooh, now I can flip it. He's just a snake. I'm going to say snake like behavior. Can I say that?
Sure.
34 of you in the building, please smash the like, and it'll kick on the algorithm.
Or at least tickle it gently. Whatever you want to do with the like button, just as long as it highlights, you can do that however you choose. Yeah, look, I mean, I think it was a red flag for me initially, and that was when he first announced the purchase of Elland Road, and it was all like Leeds United is so proud to be able to purchase the stadium back, and it's the only place for us, so on and so forth. Say all the right things. But at the time, if you read the fine print, it was like, Radrizzani purchased it with another vehicle. So yes, it's under the Radrizzani ownership umbrella, but it was not owned by Leeds United. It was not Leeds United property, except to the extent that Leeds United is Radz Out's, property at that point, that he owns the club. So I always thought that was a bit odd, and I even had concerns back then about why it was done that way. And I thought, well, maybe there's just a business reason, or maybe there's tax reasons for it. Like, who knows what it is? You never want to assume, especially at that point in time, you don't want to assume, ill intentions or whatever. But the idea now that you could use something like that, the stadium, separate it from the club potentially. And look, he sold part of the business. Like the stadium is owned by one corporation effectively, that's under his ownership. And I think the 49ers enterprises own a portion of that as well, which is a whole other interesting thing about how this works and how he could, and to be clear, he wasn't mortgaging it. He was putting it up as collateral against the debt. So if he defaulted on the debt, then the bank could call it and they could sort of take Elland Road away if it was put up as collateral for that debt. So, it wasn't that he was necessarily mortgaging it per se, but there was a potential for circumstances to occur that the bank would then take possession of Elland Road. They would repossess it effectively as the collateral for the debt. And we're talking about him buying a club that is in massive financial trouble right now. So is that possible that could happen? I mean, it is, I think. They've just been relegated as well, right? So, there's difficulty there. It's a massive risk. But the other thing is that the 49ers own some of that business. So they would have had to have signed off on that deal. And so it's really odd that he would put Elland Road on the application, and yet the 49ers enterprises, the other people involved, the other board members, Angus, they apparently had no clue about this. So what exactly was Radz Out up to at that point? What was he applying for it, and then would just sort of, if it actually came to fruition, then he would talk to them and get them on board for it? Like, I don't understand what it was. Or was it all just some sort of silly shell game that he was playing to try to force their hand? We really don't know what is happening there with that. But what we actually do know is that, he clearly put Elland Road down on an application for a loan as collateral. He never ended up actioning it, never ended up getting that particular loan. It never ended up going through. So nothing has actually happened to Elland Road. Other than that, he showed the intention of using it for that purpose. And that is a completely improper purpose, at least in terms of viewing Elland Road as a community asset and something that should always be connected to the club and not separated out as a separate asset with the potential for it to be repossessed by a foreign bank. Like, outrageous. Any bank, really, but a bank in Italy in this case.
Well, and then your mind starts to go, like we talked about earlier. Like, well, if he's using this asset of Leeds, what else is he going to use? And there's the conflict of interest that starts to happen when you own two football clubs, and I think that's his aim. I think that's his original aim, because when that Italian story got leaked about him trying to buy Sampdoria, and then the model of Watford Udinese was leaked. It's like, where would they get that idea? Well, Raz leaks a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm convinced that he leaks stuff. I'm convinced that he probably has the personal phone number of Fabrizio Romano, because remember that, like, remember that one where it was like,
there are people who tell stories.
Leeds owner Radz Out pushing to finalize this deal. It's like, where did you get that little quip on for Fabrizio Romano? Well, you probably got it from the PR spin doctor known as Radz Out. So just disaster. I think, our hope is that the 49ers do come in and make a takeover. What do you think, Michael? I know your crystal ball. We don't know what the heck is going to happen based on everything that's been breaking the past week. But what do you think, Michael? What do you think the 49ers are still interested? Does this take them off the scent? Do they no longer want to buy this asset, or or do you think they're still interested?
No, I think they're interested, and I think this paves the way for a full takeover. And I think one of our commenters already mentioned that you put it up on the screen. I think before I joined, that that I think it is going to be a 100% takeover at this point. I don't know how Ratrasani stays involved. If in fact, the other, as has been reported, and I have no reason to doubt that reporting, considering who was reporting it and the credibility there, that the other members of the board had no idea that he had done this. I mean, that doesn't just poison his relationship with the fans. You got to think it probably does with his business partners as well. I can't say for sure that is true. I don't know. They haven't said, but I think it's reasonably assumed to be the case that level of shock and something that someone's doing with, something that you partly own with them without seeking their permission or without even talking to them about it first. And again, I don't even think that it necessarily could have happened, as far as I understand, without their approval anyway. It's just weird that he would do it. Then maybe he did it and didn't realize that they needed to. Like, I don't see that as being realistic either. It's odd, but I just don't see how this isn't something that's poisoned the relationship there. And I don't know how he can possibly continue on. Certainly can't continue on with any credibility, not with the fans. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's lost some with his business partners as well. But again, I can't speak for them, and I don't know. It would just be speculation on my part.
All right, let me get through some of the comments. Mark B says, hello from Detroit, essentially. Renee, hi from Texas. A bunch of people saying hi in the community. I missed your link me his comment. Allison, I'm shocked that Radz has done this behind everyone's back, apparently. What an ASS. This guy, I just don't trust him. The 49ers, for me, the 49ers own about 25% of Elland Road itself. If so, Radz could not use it as collateral.
Yep.
Yeah, he must have attempted it, put it on an application. What do you think of the "it's none of your business" quote? I mean, talk about a guy where you're kind of caught. Yeah, but you're caught with your pants down, and you're on the phone with the media. You're in the front of the media, and all clubs want to be transparent because they depend on the fans. If the fans don't exist, the club really doesn't exist.
That's right.
That's your revenue.
That's right.
Your as my father would say, I mean, if you have children around, get them out of the room. But my father would say, you're shitting in your mess kit. Don't
yeah, that's right.
Do not mess with bite the hand that feeds you.
That's
and
it.
So that anyway, so the fact that he was clearly, upset that the Athletic got wind of this was I think interesting about the man himself.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, look, the idea that he would say it's not anyone else's business what he's doing with Elland Road. Look, I mean, obviously that statement shows that he views Leeds United, he views Elland Road not as something that he is the steward of, not as community assets, but as his chattel to do with whatever he pleases. And I'm sorry if that's your attitude going into football ownership. Look, I don't think anyone in the Leeds fan base, not anyone that's reasonable and understands business would begrudge him owning the club, making some money from it, making some profile from it, doing all those things, as long as he's taking care of it as a community asset, right? Those things have to go hand in hand. If you're going to own a football club, if you're going to own a sports team, then you have a responsibility to those who have been here from before you arrived and will be here long after, quite frankly.
Michael, I'm just so looking forward to silence. In other words, from this ownership club, for this ownership group, the person that speaks, generally speaking in America, I mean, we have the Dallas Cowboys, and that's a whole nother the owner for a lot of clubs doesn't say much.
Yeah.
They're just the owner. They provide resources and revenue, and they try to grow the asset, and they employ people to take care of the day-to-day. And you want to hear somebody, you hear from a general manager, you'd hear from your DOF and your man and your head coach, your manager. That's it. you don't hear from the owner. You don't really want to hear. They don't have it. They're just the suit generally behind the scenes, obviously in charge of making big decisions. But I don't want to, this stuff of this bull crap about, DMing and adding content creators and this vanity around his social media presence and what people think of him. I mean, no offense, but in America, we just got done with Donald Trump, and that's what he was doing. He was worried about what people were saying about him rather than, doing his job. I don't mean to be political because, I don't care too much about that stuff, but I'm just saying, like, it doesn't do anybody favors when you're not focusing on the actual
issue,
business and the issues,
the business, the whatever. You're focusing on the PR. You're focusing on the image.
It's the peripheral.
You're focusing on the
it's not the
on
meat
the show.
It's the meat. You're not giving me the meat and potatoes. You're giving me just all the extra stuff that I don't. It's like, give me the center of the plate, the protein.
I think that's a really good analogy to use for the way the last couple of years have gone, is that with Radz as owner and sort of controlling things, and obviously, like we said before, like blame has to be apportioned around, but it's been all sizzle and no steak.
Yeah. And it would always be that we'd always this joke that, he's in his house in Italy or and he's got his glass of wine and he's on the wine going through Twitter. It's like, this is the image that we have of you now. And it's really, it's just embarrassing. The headline today was embarrassing. If you go into some of the comments on some of the mainstream, media tweet and see what people are saying, it's embarrassing. I don't want Leeds to be a laughing stock.
Banter era Leeds is back, baby. Like, yeah, absolutely. Right.
And
it is.
Everybody's having a laugh. Like West Brom's having a laugh. Everybody's like, you're selling your stadium to another club. It's like, dude, we're a big. I don't want to hear that. That's got to be in the rearview mirror. I'm just sick of that stuff, and it was just disappointing to hear that. One of the club's greatest financial strengths was owning ER outright. I can't believe that might be gone. This is like crap Glazers pulled with scum. Yeah, they're bad owners. I don't want to let them off the hook. But I don't know. They've been investing a little bit into the club at least, but they've also been mortgaging it. So I don't know. They're equally as poor. I don't want to say anything good about them. What do you lads think about a hunch going over here that the 49ers are leaking to the Athletic? Yeah, I think that's there's a leak somewhere. There's a leak somewhere, and I think you're going to have kind of a mutiny amongst the board here, which will be really interesting.
We got to look at the timeline of events, right? Because it's been reported that, obviously the story only came out today. It was reported that the 49ers guys and Kinnear found out about this last night. So did they find out and then leak it? Did they find out because it was leaked? Did they find out when Adam Crafton or Phil Hay or whoever called them up and was like, hey, what do you know about this? We don't know how that happened, but look, it's entirely possible that happened. It's also entirely possible that the journalists were simply looking into the matter because of all the community outcry that's been going on for the last week since Leeds have gone down. Where is Radz? What is he doing? Maybe they just went and explored that option. We don't know exactly how that happened. I don't know if we will ever know. I mean, I doubt that that the journalists involved would ever reveal their sources because that's just typically not what's done. But listen, I think the idea that the 49ers maybe found out somehow and leaked it themselves is certainly a credible theory.
Michael, what do you think about the whole statement released by Radz and then it not being retweeted or copied and pasted via the club?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the same thing as I mentioned before. Last year when we stayed up, it was all Leeds United stuff, right? Radz out in front celebrating, yay, we survived, and it was all we Leeds United, and it was club connected, and now it's not. So I think that's deliberate. It may be indicative that he's done, that he's leaving. Certainly, you
But
know,
the language was so, we have more to go and on this
yeah,
journey.
I mean, I don't know what else.
Hot air possible.
Yeah, hot air, a public, uh, a public exercise to force the hand of the 49ers to get the deal over the line, maybe. Just saying, like, look, I'm quite willing to go out front and say that it's still we, and get the barbarians at the gates after you for not buying up what I want, right? Putting the pressure on everyone from outside. Remember, like, in order for him to sell it, the 49ers have to come up with an offer that's acceptable to him. So maybe it's his way of getting out front and trying to immediately, I guess, push it towards shifting the blame towards them if the deal doesn't get done, as opposed to himself.
Any chance you think this goes to court? I mean, you've got a little bit of a legal background. Anything could go to court, right?
Well, yeah, it can. Look, I think if they're able to hammer out a deal for the full sale of everything, I imagine they'll just say, look, it's done. We bought the rest of the shares in the Elland Road Corporation. We bought the rest of the shares in the Leeds United Corporation. Let's just cut it off and move on. No actual damages or harm done. And right now it's hard to say that there actually are any damages other than reputational. But I think the reputational damage is on Radz. It's not on the 49ers at this point. So it would be hard to say what they would claim for, unless somehow or another all this business was to cause the deal to collapse, in which case, then he's gone around and he's done something, trying to put something on an application without permission from the co-owners of the property. And again, I can't say that I'm an expert in Italian law. I don't know anything about it, frankly, and I don't know necessarily how it fits in with UK law either. But it's certainly dodgy. It's dodgy the way that it happened, and I would say that if in fact he was able to do it, then they would certainly have a lawsuit. But the fact that nothing actually ended up happening at the end of the day, it's hard to know what they would possibly sue for.
Let's go through some of the comments. This Lee says, just wait and see what happens until next week. Mark says, how can Radz run two clubs and pay two teams wages and trying to put Leeds United ground up for $26 million to buy Sampdoria? So he needs the money to get out of Leeds now.
Yeah.
Too bad he's not in town. Amen.
Yes.
Protest. Somebody mentioned protests on the 10th. I've seen the 10th, the 12th,
14th. So the 14th, I'm like, I don't think anyone's coming to protest on a Wednesday morning at 9:00, but okay.
Just Joe did have a lad from, he had a lad from Italy, and he was a Leeds fan. It was a good interview. I do recommend that. Bandy, good to see you as always. With the TV money, there's enough money to run a club and still take a healthy profit. Yeah, I mean, this club should be much more profitable, right? It's more financially stable than what we were looking at when we went down in the early aughts, right?
Even at the current valuation, he's making money. He bought the club for what, like 40 million. It's valued at 170, and Elland Road is a separate asset we've already established. So that's another asset that he can sell the rest of for more profit. So, obviously he's just said, was it 27 million or something was the collateral amount? Was that what it was? So obviously there's value there as well for him to take money out. So like he's making money on the growth of the asset. Not just like operating profits, of which, we know we've had some operating profits and some operating losses over time, but the growth of the asset and him cashing out that asset is where he's going to make his money. Obviously it's going to be a lot less now that we've gone down than it would have been how we managed to stay up. A lot less, which, has always been the difficulty. Wondering whether or not he's actually going to sell now or try to stick it out. And, maybe there's a situation potentially where he would have sold some of it and kept some of it still. We don't know what the deal is, or maybe the 49ers guarantee him some sort of balloon payment at the end if we manage to go back up within a certain period of time or whatever. who knows what the negotiations are at this point. I'm still flabbergasted at the fact that they only had a deal in place if we managed to stay up. Like no one contemplated or even wanted to contemplate the idea that we could possibly go down. So let's not bother with a contingency plan for this. I mean, that's ridiculous. Renee, I think had a really good point, which is just like, the 49ers leaking info to put pressure on Radz, and maybe Radz's letter earlier from Acer was his way of putting public pressure on them. Are we just watching without actually knowing for sure a PR war being carried out in public through the media between these two entities, sort of locked in a battle of negotiation right now and putting pressure on each other to close a deal, right? Like that's entirely plausible that's what we're witnessing right now. And we all just have to sit and watch it with our popcorn.
Well, I'll say the 49ers
definitely
have leverage because the team just got relegated and we do not like the current owner. So
yeah, no, I think that's right.
And this the way this season was, and there's a reason why I haven't streamed in a while. It's just this season was terrible. It was just terrible to watch. I mean, the football was bad. The players didn't seem to care. The managerial changes, the recruiting with the manager circus. It was just one, and you couldn't help but not look. You're kind of like going like this the whole time because there was hope, obviously, until pretty much the end. I hope they finished the antibiotics course, Stu. I don't know. I think you're referencing hopefully a full change.
I think there will be, guys. I think that the sale is going to go through. I think it's going to be for all of it. I think we're going to have a new owners by next week. If you want my just, and I'm just looking at the way everything's going, I think it's done or it will be done very soon. I'm
hopeful. Fingers crossed. 41 of you in the building, please lightly graze, smash, or just click the like button. It kicks the video on. It helps other people see. It grows the channel. And I am on the journey to 1,000 subs. I will get there one day. So, and I did a study. There was 30 or so basically people that 30% of the views are subscribed. So there's a lot of people that are not subscribed that watch the video. So please just go ahead,
subscribe
and sub.
Click the bell too. Get notification
click the bell
when we're on. Is he going to use a parachute payments to finance Sampdoria? Well, that's an interesting question.
The worry.
I don't know that he can. I mean, certainly that would be the case if he was staying on. If he's selling, then that will all be worked out, like how much money he's getting from 49ers Enterprises, and that's what he'd be using. And I imagine there's some, the way that the club is valued will be based on things like revenue, and that's part of the revenue. But to say that he's just going to take the whatever the balloon payment is that he gets from the Premier League and just immediately hand that over to Sampdoria, I don't know that he can do that because I mean, currently he's still the majority owner of Leeds United, and Leeds has financial obligations that it has to meet. If he fails to meet them, then he's going to have one asset that's tanking and losing significant amount of value, and that's not what he wants either. So I don't think that's something that he would be able to do. I think it'd be very difficult to do.
I don't trust this guy. I don't know. I hope not.
Well, I'm just saying he's got debts. Like Leeds has debts to pay. We have to use that money.
Leeds Leeds.
If he's owning
debts to pay,
56% of Leeds United, and he just chooses not to pay the debts, then his 56% is going into administration, just like the other 44. Right? Like,
and hopefully the 49ers can, if for whatever reason, worst case scenario, he does continue his ownership, the 49ers can continue to check him. And you know what I mean? Leak this stuff and get the access to these financial records and publish them then. I don't know.
Point out that Martin Cook, he didn't smash the like, he didn't tickle it, he tantalized it.
Tantalizing. All right, very good, sir.
Tantalized like button. Love it.
It looks like Bandy has a chest infection. There was some internal dialogue about
Bandy.
Get well, Bandy, my friend. Finish up the antibiotics, and then I'm a big fan of vitamin D. I take massive amounts of vitamin D supplements whenever I get sick. C is water soluble. I guess D is fat soluble. Zinc,
as
yes.
well. Zinc is super helpful.
I don't care what people say. Some people say it's a scam. I don't care. I take a massive amounts of it. It's very hard to overdose on vitamins.
Works for me. I don't care if it is a placebo. It works.
Yeah, that's true. Even if it is,
what's the
right?
difference?
When 49ers, when the 49ers are going to say something in leads, they are very. Wait, let me see. Mark had another one. Anyways, when 49ers are going to say something in leads where they're all very worried that the 49ers are just going to sell the share, or they are going to get their fingers out of their rear ends and get this deal done.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, it has to make business sense for them as well, right? So the deal's there to be done, I think, but
we all want to see it. We all want to see it happen.
Yeah, we do. The conditions that the deal was the deal was hinged upon previously are no longer in place because the team got relegated, right? So there was no deal. They have to negotiate a new one. Obviously, they're going to have to get their finger out, so to speak, which is to say that they need to get their wallets out and pay the money. But they're not going to just pay way over the odds for this asset because they're not doing this for benevolent reasons either. They also want to make their money. And I don't think we should begrudge them that. It's not a charity. It is a business. They do, they're investors. They're doing this for a reason. The hope always is that the people who come in to invest in a club have the community in mind and that it's a win-win scenario, right? It's a everybody wins situation where they're able to make their money, but at the same time put out a good product that everybody enjoys and that is able to stay as an asset of community value, and that you don't end up going backwards. You need owners that can do all of those things to be good owners. And, I never have a significant amount of trust for owners. My mantra is always never trust the suits when it comes to sports team ownership. But that doesn't mean that you have to despise them either. It just means that you have to be very careful and not get carried away thinking that they're there and care about the club in the same way you do. They care about the club, but they care about it probably for different reasons.
Right. I like the 49ers will not say anything until official until they have full control. No minority party ever will.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it would be rare for them to say something. And then I just think how they are from afar, from me looking at the 49ers club here in America, they do not, their marketing is so good. They don't have anything to announce until it's official. They just that's not how they operate.
Well, they operate professionally, and that's one thing that I'm hoping their ownership will bring is just another level of professionalism. And look, I think Radz, as I said before, he does deserve praise for some things. One of the things that he deserves praise for is that he did get the business side of things in order so that we were functioning at least as a business with, not crazy levels of debt, not ridiculous levels of deficits every year. The business side of things was in order. That was a benefit to him. It was a benefit to the club. That's what you want to see. Unfortunately, now he's showing that maybe it's not so much the way that things are moving forward with the way that he's separated things out and he's trying to use Elland Road as collateral, whatever. That's the opposite of what we want to see. So yeah, the 49ers, I hope they come in and add another level of professional management on the business side of things with this club. That's like the commercial side of things, the marketing side of things, the interaction, the fan experience, all of that stuff are things that you hope that these guys will be able to come in and improve. And the reason you want to improve those things is because that raises your profile, raises your revenue levels, allows you to put a better team out on the pitch, which is what it's all about for the fans, right? And compete. If you don't have those things in place, then you're never going to do that. So you need to be smart about all things. And I know fans get bored or they don't want things to change. There are things that have to change. If you don't want them to change, then you're going to have to be satisfied with being a middling championship club. If you don't want that and you want to go back to the Premier League and you want to be able to compete for European places or the rest of it, then there are certain things that have to get modernized. And I'm hoping that's what the 49ers enterprises will be able to do.
Yeah.
Without changing the core identity of the club, right? Again,
right.
You gotta. It's a trade, right? You got to protect the asset. You got to protect the community value. the community
I
asset.
just don't know.
But also have to advance the ball, right?
This is a newer venture for Rad Razzani than it is the 49ers. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean sports ownership. Rad Razzani's owned Leeds. I don't know if he really owned another club before that, but you can see basically
the
professionalism of the club before this hinged on Marcelo Bielsa, who knew what the hell he was doing. He knew what he was doing with training grounds. He's been at other clubs. He was essentially like a head coach, manager, and consultant. He was consulting them on, hey, if the turf changes at Elland Road, it needs to change at Thorpe Arch. You know what I mean? Like things like that, like just the way the youth academies are run like this, like, and I think it worked out because at other places, maybe there was some egos and other levels in place and stuff. And they were like, we don't know what we're doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Tell us, Marcelo. And then Marcelo, obviously was shown the door on, and it, in retrospect, it was a terrible idea. And how it was done was terrible.
Yep.
But the brain trust, the intellectual capacity of the club just also went down. Yeah. And I think the 49ers know how to run sports franchises. So I'm not saying they know how to run football, UK football proper clubs yet, but hopefully they've been at least looking at this for the past 3 or 4 years, deciding the chess moves once they get in place and making those happen. I really love this quote here. I just want to read this. Elland Road belongs to all of us as Leeds United fans. It was here before us. It will be here after us. It is part of our heritage and what makes us who we are. Well said, Jonathan Brooke. I want to be conscious of your time, Michael. How are you doing? It's 10 hours.
Okay. I got a few more minutes. Kevin Brown asked if do you think the 49ers pushed for Jesse, or was it just a coincidence? And I guess what you're asking is, did we get Jesse because the 49ers wanted him? No. Simply no. We got Jesse Marsh because Victor Orta wanted him, and Victor Orta was involved and had met Jesse at some sort of event elsewhere several years before he brought him in. He was 100% a Victor Orta pick. The 49ers had absolutely nothing to do with Jesse coming in. I can state that categorically. It was 100% Victor Orta. It was his man. It was his plan. It was his idea for how the club should move forward. Obviously, it was the wrong one, but it had nothing to do with the 49ers. That is pure coincidence. Now, in terms of having American players, do the 49ers want American players on the team? Yes, they do. Of course they do. They want to be able to market Leeds United back home in America. That's a growth market. That's where they're going to make their money. So yes, they're quite happy to have Americans involved. Why wouldn't they be? But in terms of Jesse Marsh himself, he was 100% Victor Orta's man.
I don't think they would mortgage the status of the club to just get Americans in. So I do agree with that. I think Jesse Marsh was more they saw some rock and roll, quote unquote, football, but to compare it to what Marcelo Bielsa was doing is now quite laughable.
Yeah.
Definitely plausible that the 49ers are leaking info. We went a little bit over that.
Yeah, we've done that. Yeah.
Just catching up.
Dave at the bottom, coach should pick players to buy, not a sports director. Dave, I know that's the way that it's been traditionally done in the English leagues, but that's just not the way it's done in modern football anymore. And there's a reason for that. And like, I have some sympathy for that idea, just because that is the way that it's been done and it's been successful. And we know that was what was going on during some of our more successful times. But the way that it works now is, with modern football clubs, is that, a sporting director isn't just buying players. They're also picking the entire philosophy and ethos of the club from a sporting perspective. The problem with a coach picking the players is the coach is going to pick players that play with them. If you have a bad season and it doesn't work, you fire the coach. What are you left with? Players that played for that coach, that were picked for that coach. You have to go to a different coach that may have a different playing style. And all of a sudden you're actually stuck with what we have right now. When we bought players, not for a specific broader philosophy, but we bought players specifically to placate Jesse Marsh. Now all of a sudden we have all sorts of players that play RB ball, right? They play that Red Bull style of ball, and they really just can't play for anybody else. And we've seen that. That's what the team was built for. What we need to have is a broader philosophy where where you're centering it around the style of one specific coach, where you come up with the philosophy, the sporting philosophy, and then you find the coach that fits. And if that coach doesn't work out, you find another one that fits, and you adjust the philosophy as you need to and rebuild the team.
Yep.
Any continuity these days, the way that modern football is, love it or hate it.
Yep.
You're going to have any continuity, you've got to go with the sporting director model these days, because you need to set a philosophy and then hire the staff, coach and players, and all the other coaching staff to fit the philosophy, not the other way around.
Yeah.
You do it the other way around, you're going to end up exactly where we are right now, and that's where they've made the mistake. Ironically, we did that with the director of football, but the director of football fell head over heels in love with one particular coach and one particular style, and that was his mistake. You need to have someone who isn't going to do that. Yeah, that's for me. That is the first thing we have to do. I know we're talking about getting a manager in as soon as possible. We need to get a director of football in as soon as possible.
Right.
Yesterday. And that person needs to be involved in picking who the next coach will be and what the playing staff will be, because we need to start coming up with some sort of cohesive plan for what this club is going to look like from a non-sporting and from a sporting direction moving forward.
Yep.
If we don't do that, we're just going to be spinning our wheels.
Yep. 100%. That's big facts. Big facts.
I totally sympathize with what you're saying there, though. Like, in terms of I think the manager has to have some input. Obviously, they need to.
Absolutely, but they need to be handling the business of training, tactics, scouting, scouting opponents. How do you retain current players and recruit new staff if you're not informed about the status of the club? I don't think you do, Chris. I don't think most of the stuff that's going to be coming out this transfer window in the next couple of weeks until this stuff's all announced is really hot garbage, in my opinion. Like, the players that we're after, the head coaches that we're after, I don't know. I just really think it's agent driven, because no one knows anything what's going on at this club really right now, at least at the senior club level. Maybe like U23s and stuff like that, or U21s stuff can be kind of leaked a little bit, but even that is really questionable until this thing gets ironed out.
Yeah, no, we're stuck. We are absolutely stuck spinning our wheels until this ownership situation comes out. And honestly, how many coaches, how many directors of football, how many people that, take themselves seriously in this industry are going to want to come to Leeds United to being the flaming car wreck that it is right now? None of them, I don't think. They don't know who are they coming to be employed by, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to want to step into that chaos? No, this needs to get sorted out. It needed to get sorted out yesterday, as I said, and we need to be able to move on. And I just hope that this nonsense that we've seen playing out in the public eye with the media and with Radz and the stupid Acer statement and all this stuff, I just hope this is all focusing everyone's attention towards the inevitable end of this, which has to be 49ers Enterprises doing 100% takeover of this club as soon as possible. I just hope that's what's the coming down the track.
50 of you in the building. If we can get 50 out of 50, that would be ideal as far as the likes go. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed, and we'll take it from there. Last question, Michael, to you is, and I'll maybe go through a few more comments if you have to go, but Angus, some people were upset that Angus is still employed making decisions there. I have my qualms with Angus as well, but my argument is somebody's got to know where the bodies are buried. Somebody's got to run the day-to-day business of the club. Just what's your take on Angus and where he's going to go?
Yeah, I agree. I think you do need to have someone there who knows what's going on. Obviously, Radz checked out, so who knows? Who knows what his level of involvement will be over the next little while. Hopefully, it'll be nil because the club will be sold. It makes sense at least to keep Angus around for the transition. I would prefer to have a clean break from everyone for the Radz era at this stage. But I understand a clean break can't happen immediately. I think it just has to happen slightly phased. Eventually, we need to have a whole new team in place. But it does make sense for the time being to have someone there who just understands the operations of the club a little bit better, and that is Angus's role as the the CEO. He handles the business side of things, whereas Victor Orta, up until he left, was handling the sporting side of things. You do need someone who understands the business operations. People need to get paid. That sort of stuff. There's a lot of employees and other things that need to have some continuity on that side. So it makes sense to keep him around for a while, but I do hope that eventually we can transition away from the entire leadership structure that's been in place.
Yeah, I agree.
Other than the 49ers side of it, obviously, because that's who we're transitioning to.
I think we're going to see, man, once it comes in, I'm hopeful, but I think it's going to be like drinking like a cool glass of water. I think it's going to be refreshing, my friends. Red Bull football will never work in the Premier League. No arguments here. We were kind of saying that all season. We were hoping that it would work, but it would not. It would. Your statement was always that our floor dropped and our ceiling. What was it? Our ceiling dropped and our floor also got dropped, or maybe our ceiling got raised.
The idea was that our ceiling would drop and our floor would rise up a bit, so that we would be in that sort of middle bracket. But unfortunately, the ceiling dropped and crushed us. So
it's not. It's just not. Yeah. It's not feasible football.
No.
And I think you've seen that at Southampton. You've seen that here. It's not going to work in the Prem, even with pretty much almost all the players you want. Big Sam implied that the manager coach should be involved in what we agree with that. Leeds relegation. Southampton relegation.
That comment. The manager should what? Big Sam what?
Big Sam implied the manager coach should be involved in what player. Yeah, I think so.
I think the conversation has to be had. Absolutely. I'm not saying that the director of football rules over all sporting things with an iron fist and the manager can go to hell. No, I think that needs to be some strategic partnership.
It's a question of what you elevate to them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to elevate, hey, there's this kid in Serie B and we're looking at him and you know what I mean? Like, he could be an option for us, but it's like, we're really considering this kid. We want you to get eyes on him.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Or he's a U21 prospect and depth there. He doesn't need to look at that, but it's like, we understand we're out a left back. How's this left back? That one
they have to work together, of course.
Yes, of course.
But the thing is, what you can't do is you can't build an entire team just for one particular coaching philosophy unless it's the philosophy of the club that you're planning on carrying forward after that coach is gone. Right. Coaches will come and go. We know they're the first one to leave the building when things get going rough.
They do.
Always. You can't fire all the playing staff. The owners aren't going to fire themselves, so the coach is the one that has to go. You need to be able to build a consistent philosophy where you can transition from one coach to another one that has a similar and actually similar, not a fake similar, like what we had moving from Bielsa to Marsh, where it was supposedly the next evolution, but it absolutely was not. You need to have someone who actually knows what they're doing and actually understands that the transition has to be real, right? Like going from Marcelo Bielsa to Roberto De Zerbi or Andoni Iraola or someone else that actually makes sense. But that's a competence issue, I think, rather than a problem with the core structure of having a director of football. That was just simply mistakes were made and were not owned. And as I said at the very top of this, the buck always has to come back to the person at the top. That's Raj Razani. He should have seen that what was going on with the decisions that Victor was making were not the correct decisions. And we should have moved on at that point and struck out a new course. And we didn't. So that's the issue with that. Mistakes are always possible, but it doesn't mean that the whole structure, the whole system of having a director of football and a manager working together is wrong. I think that is the correct system for modern football. Love it or hate it.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you, everybody. We'll end on this note. Thanks, everybody. And I apologize if I couldn't get to your comment, but, robust conversation, never a dull moment as a Leeds United fan. Here we are a few days after relegation, and this freaking thing's in chaos. But I wanted to end again on this note. Jonathan Brooke, you hit the money on the head, and let's end with this positive note for once. Elland Road belongs to all of us as Leeds United fans. It was here before us. It'll be here after us. It's part of our heritage and what makes us who we are. Marching on together, everyone. Leeds, and let's see what tomorrow brings, okay? All right.
See you guys. Thanks a lot.
Comment, subscribe. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, all commenters.